Hi, my name is Carlos Bolinas, and today I will be presenting about organ donor and transplant ethical and legal issues. As a quick intro on organ transplant or organ donor transplants, we share a little milestone timeline here on just the advancements of organ transplants from 1970, the first kidney transplant from a living donor, to 2002, the first lung transplant, and in between that, there's been the first heart transplant, among some other vital organs. Organ transplants and donations are life-saving medical procedures which entail the transplant of organs from one patient to another. Currently, 13 patients die each day waiting on an organ transplant list. 8 lives are able to be saved from one donor, and potentially 75 lives enhanced by that one donor. It's important to call out that there's various needs for organ transplants, organ donations, from your eyes to tissues. It's not always the main organs, kidneys, heart, lung. It could be as critical as your skin, even as an organ, your eyes. Um, a few ethical organ or a few ethical considerations regarding organs is the religious and cultural perspectives of how it's viewed worldwide. Um, Additionally, there's been a lot of considerations regarding informed consent, making sure that the respect, dignity, and integrity is at the center of the request for organs to, or for an individual to become a donor, whether that's when they're alive, healthy, or in critical condition, and they have to make the decision before they are no longer able to make that decision for themselves. And the decision is then asked by a family member if the patient is um, not capable of making that decision. We also have to consider the risk and benefits of donating organs. There's has to be some autonomy. There's that benevolence or non-maleficence that is tied to organ donations, whether you're the procurement organ organization, whether you're the healthcare system that has these programs of organ transplants, kidney transplants, to the individuals and laws within your own state. The more knowledge, or the more talked about ethical consideration of organs is the organ allocation or distribution of organs, and the efficacy of just having equal access. So there's organ needs worldwide. Each country has different rules, they have different guidelines, um, they have different certification programs to ensure that whether you're the procurement, you're procuring the organs, or making the transplant as a medical professional, that they are staying up to date on um, efficacy, best practice, and avoiding any unethical practices. There's also some ethical considerations regarding the living donor organs versus deceased donor organs. What makes somebody medically expired or deceased, and therefore the process to start harvesting their organs and going through the list initiates. But are those is that the best practice? Is that are organizations often jumping too fast to this next step because there is such a need, and one individual can save 17 lives, 8 lives, or an enhanced 75 lives just by their own donation? So there's definitely pressures and limited resources, presumed consents, and incentives from healthcare organizations, and also the procurement, organ procurement organizations to be able to save as many lives as possible. So the biggest challenge here is there's a high demand and low supply, which often, due to the pressure, can create some gray areas in just what the patients, the families, the health systems, the organ, um, the organ harvesting organizations can fall into. So the challenges are the lengthy wait list, as well as the cost of the organ transplants and the risk of those organs. So going back to deciding who gets it, equal access. There's often, because the wait list is so long, there's different criterias that are not always the same across country or state borders, especially not the same across different countries where these organs are transported for that need. So if you have different comorbidities, you are maybe older and not the healthiest, that typically can put you at the bottom of the list, and who can put a price on a life, right? So there's that ethical conflicting thoughts of do we have the right criteria? Are we giving the right individuals the right opportunities for a prolonged life, a second chance at life? There's also risk of organs becoming not viable during the transportation. So because there is such a need worldwide, that equal access to organ transplants is often reduced, because if you're in a third world country or too far away, they focus more on local domestic of need versus international. There's also concerns of organ retrievals happening when a patient is still showing signs of life. So going back to, are they able to make that decision? Are they clinically expired, deceased? Are organizations making that judgment call fairly quickly because they want to save other lives and meet those incentives? Illegal procurement of organs in other countries, so there's always the black market, um, unethical ways of obtaining organs, from children being murdered and organs being harvested to adults being murdered and having their organs harvested and go into the black market. There's also, as individuals, we have a need for, or we have the pressure of the economic socio status. So if an individual needs money, they often will sell their organs that they can. They get the money. However, down the line, they may need that same organ in the future for their quality of life or prolonged life, or need a different organ. So there's just a cycle of is this ethical? Is this the right thing to do to allow individuals to sell their sell their organs? Although there's a lot of work that has happened with the different milestones from the first kidney to the first lungs. There's continuous advancements in the medical field that will help alleviate some of the pressure of organ transplant, human organ donations and transplants, as well as uh, address the low supply of organs and the high demand of organs by the 3D printing of artificial organs and tissues, also stem cells regenerating capabilities with these medical advancements. The biggest risk that anybody goes through with organ transplants are complications, further care that needs to happen, or worst case scenario, the organ um, is rejected. So there's always that balance of, did we choose the right person, and is there going to be a risk of their body needing more care and adding more pressure on their bodies, on their healthcare cost? Um, will this be reimbursed? Will this not? And and then what happens if it's rejected and they end up on the list again? And how many times can their body reject an organ before they are deemed, not a candidate to be on the list? Um, I came across this scripture, which I believe is where majority of religions allow or understand the need to donate your organs or have an organ transplant. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I loved you. Greater love has no one than this, than someone lay down his life for his friends. That was John 15, 12 through 13. And I believe that there is gifted individuals that are granted the knowledge, the wisdom, the discernment to be able to provide this medically needed treatment for um, others. And it is always our responsibility to gauge into our spirit, our gut feeling, prayer, and discernment to avoid falling into these malpractices, unethical practices or channels, especially as there is such a high demand and there is a lot of pressure, um, and we all would love to have second opportunities or a prolonged life, but it's not of benefit of anybody if we are um, in works with procuring organs through an unethical route, not giving everybody the fair chance, being biased in the organ donor selection process, how we procure the organs, and the cost of organs as well. So that's my presentation. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much and have a great day.